Hello, hello. I am Dr. Barry, licensed psychologist, and here I share legal and entertainment news from a psychological perspective. Tonight, everything was going wrong. It's just Tuesday is acting like a bit of a Monday. And so please let me know if this sounds off or anything. I was going to try to use a different device and today it was not working. And so we are going about this way for today. You all asked for me to cover Chad Daybell's jurors. There are multiple jurors that have given statements, and I am just so thankful for this jury. It sounds like they were very much on top of just the evidence, and they were just on top of everything. And I'll also share at the end just tips for if anybody does have jury duty, if anybody ever does have to sit on a jury where you're hearing all of this horrific information, just how somebody might approach that. I was in the stream with Nate Eaton. I yesterday, yes, last night, I was in that stream while he was covering the longer version of this. So I have all of the links down in the description. So I have the full link to the longer jury interview. It was about an hour, maybe hour and a half or so, because it started with juror number 9, and then it was 6 jurors together, and then I also have there was a new juror, juror 14, that spoke, and I'm gonna share a little bit of that. So cool when I get to see y'all in the chat on other videos. I truly appreciate that. Welcome to everybody that's listening live and on replay. If you're watching on replay and you see the pinned comment say that some of the because sometimes the videos get like a copyright strike where normally it doesn't, but sometimes I have to remove certain segments, and I always pin that in the comments if that happens. So we're going to start with this shorter interview that aired on KTVB. Yeah. All right.
Spoke with Abby Davis, who's been covering this trial since the beginning.
What led you guys to decide that Chad was guilty? What were the deciding factors?
The prosecution had an overwhelming amount of evidence.
And we went through it. If someone had questions, we dove in, we found the answers, we found whatever supported where we were going, discussed, is there something that we didn't think of that would change our minds? So I'm very proud of the group that we had, that we did a thorough job and discussed everything. But as Roy mentioned, the prosecution put up a great case.
And I agree. I think the prosecution, this was a long case. This was very, very long. And we are going to cover because juror 14 talks specifically about the defense. And so we are going to head over to that next. If y'all have questions, please let me know. I believe in this interview, they're going to bring up the fact that Chad presented zero mitigating evidence as to why he shouldn't get the death penalty or even to say something to the judge. And my review of other people, so Dr. G Explains talked about how Chad, he keeps his nose up almost in the stance of being superior, and just how controlled he was, that anytime something was happening over here, he just looked with his eyes while everybody else would turn their face and their body in that direction. Chad would just look with his eyes. And a lot of the jurors commented on his lack of emotion during the entire trial.
It made our decision, I don't want to say easy, but it pointed us in a direction pretty quickly.
I know as an alternate, and we had talked about it afterwards, there was complete support for the.
So the individual that just spoke, she was an alternate, so she was not able to decide with the rest of the jury, but she was still sequestered for the jury deliberation and the death penalty phase deliberation.
12 that were deliberating.
So if the deliberating jurors were different,
It wouldn't have mattered.
wouldn't have mattered.
Not at all.
I think that's really important. The fact that even if a different juror had ended up, because I think there were a total of 6 alternates, I wanna say, because I think it was a total of 18 jurors altogether, 12 that deliberated and decided the ultimate verdict and sentence. But, just that it didn't matter, that everybody was kind of on the same page, and they decided this after. So after all the deliberations, after they've all talked, this is what they're coming to.
As you were sitting there, did you guys get angry at points?
I got very angry, especially the more you had the evidence of what emails he sent, what texts he sent, what he said about children that weren't even his, that he needed to raise the pain and turn up the dark. And it was like, this is unbelievable that this person is that much of a narcissist to.
She said it, not me. I've done some videos where I covered this a little bit, and Aurora, to me, Chad presenting 0 mitigating evidence. Lori was overtly saying, "Y'all can't judge me. Only God can judge me. I visit with my children." Like, Lori, like, she showed outwardly just her thoughts. He kept it all inside. And a lot of the victims, because I believe JJ's grandfather talked about the fact that he just wanted to hear, even if Chad said, I didn't do it. Like, they just wanted him to say something. And the fact that he said nothing, there were some of the victims that, based on watching some of their interviews, it sounded like they were kind of disappointed that he didn't do anything. And they saw it as a point of control. I have mentioned that I think Chad thinks that he's some type of martyr. He thinks he's Christ-like. I think somebody mentioned in the comments that he thought he was like the Holy Spirit. I don't know. Like, he has some very, very out there beliefs. And I don't think he thinks the court can judge him in this way. Similar to what Lori said out loud, he said it in a more covert, no, because overt. So Lori was overt, his is more quiet, where he's not saying it out loud. I might have said that wrong earlier. Y'all know me. Gosh, I'm glad that the families have a verdict. And I'm so glad that JJ's grandparents fought so hard to figure out what was going on. And a lot of people have said if it wasn't for JJ and Tylee, he probably would have got away with Tammy. Tammy's death would have never been looked into if it hadn't been for JJ and Tylee. Nobody would have ever suspected anything. And it was all of it together that culminated, like, everything came together in this horrific way. Um, do I think the sentence is what he wanted and told his lawyer he wanted? So there is, and I'm going to pull it up there. And I have the full link to the video linked below there. This was the first time that I had seen this guy's channel, PD Chad Daybell. Let's see if that brings up the video. I have it linked down below. So I saw a lawyer go over everything, and Pryor had a conference with the judge back in January. It didn't come up this way. I'm gonna have to pull up the link another way. Give me a second to pull up the link. But Pryor had a comment about possibly challenging the rules in their state, because the state rule was if you have private counsel, you can't get court appointed counsel as well. So Pryor wanted to be the private lawyer and then also have a death penalty certified lawyer as well. And I think he tried to come off of the case like right before it started, and the judge would not allow him off of the case. And so with all of that, it sounded like they might try to take this to their state Supreme Court. And it's PD questions. I'm going to pull up just so y'all can see, because he actually played, and I might be able to find it. share this tab. So I have the full link. This was a very, very good video. Please check out this video. Like, it was really, really good. And he goes over thinking that this is a strategy from Pryor, and that Pryor had specifically said and asked for that private conference with the judge because of this strategy. So that there might be something that might come up on appeal that might change the law in their state. But Chad would love that. Wouldn't Chad love it if something that happened with his case changed the entire laws in the entire state? Like, so right now, he was not able to have a public defender and private counsel. Exactly. I really think Chad would absolutely love that. like like that he could have a constitutional claim, possibly going all the way to the Supreme Court, possibly. Like, so they might bring this up with um with the state Supreme Court, and then eventually possibly with the US Supreme Court, if they feel like his rights were violated because of this law. Nobody has really challenged that within this state, and but it's because I don't think anybody's been sentenced to death in that state in a while. Like, I think they only have 9 people. I don't know, this isn't, they don't go for the death penalty a lot in this state. Texas does it a lot. There are other states, I think Virginia's pretty, there are other states that issue out the death penalty a lot more. They do not. This juror, I really like her, the one that kind of called Chad a narcissist, and so we're going to listen to her talk a little bit more.
To think he was the Holy Ghost, to think he was at the right hand of God. I just don't know how someone gets to that point.
How hard was it to decide that he deserved death?
That was probably the hardest part. We were surprised he didn't say anything at the end. Not that that would have changed our mind at all, but at least it would have been maybe eye-opening to say, okay, are there mitigating factors that should come into play? And no.
Whether they deserve it or not, it's not an easy thing to do.
It was very emotional, still is very emotional. When I think about it, I'm sure all these guys feel the same. Knowing that you were one of 12, one of 18 that condemned somebody basically to death. That's a heavy burden to live with the rest of your entire life.
Is there anything that you guys want to say to any of the victims' families?
I hope.
And they were really impacted by the impact statements. And I have that full video linked if y'all would like to check out the rest of that one. This is an interview with juror number 14. And I'm starting about a minute 16 in, where he's talking about the defense. I thought this was pretty interesting. And this one just came out today. I'm wondering if Nate might be releasing the full version of this tonight on his channel. I'm not sure. It looks like this was a shorter clip that was released.
And I was frustrated because there was, well, we're going to focus on the paintball gun, and we're going to focus on
defense.
this, and we're going to, that had nothing to do with the facts and the evidence. So it was unfortunate. I just kept waiting and waiting for some other piece of information that would maybe at least cause you pause and make you think maybe a little differently. All right. Okay. Maybe he was bamboozled. Maybe he was taken advantage of. Maybe he had the wool. They never showed that ever. And so, yes.
And to me, they didn't show it because it didn't exist. Chad really was the one that was leading a lot of this. Lori did look at him like a God figure and believed that he was, in my opinion, I think she fully believed the delusion that he was communicating directly with God, and that there were these zombies and they were freeing them. Because him even to playing the the song, because Heather Daybell talked about at Tammy's funeral that Chad played a song that she had heard in church talking about like doing work, but that song had never been played at a funeral. And it was almost like he was saying that Tammy was off doing this work now, and there wasn't the typical grief or that you might see at a situation like that. Um, Emma kind of let it out that her dad seemed happy at times at the funeral. Emma let some of the stuff slip out, and I truly do hope for the adult Daybell children that they can connect with their safe family, because I think they've kind of gotten caught up in Chad's side. I hope they can go back and look at everything, see kind of what the jury saw, but he has this conspiracy stuff that I think he's planted these seeds along the way, and they might feel that their dad was misunderstood or that there was this conspiracy, and that my heart really breaks for them, especially losing their maternal grandfather, Tammy's dad, that there are people that want to support them, that they've, based on what the family has said, they keep them at arm's length because they do believe that Chad was involved in all of this. So,
I was waiting and waiting. And then, Nate, to be completely honest, after a while, you're just irritated. You're just annoyed, because that's the other piece of it. So much of what they should be doing is optics. Don't lean into the microphone and yell in it to where it's buzzing in the speakers when you're trying to make a point. That's annoying. That's really annoying. Just make your point. Be professional. Be somewhat caring, and try to connect with your jury.
so this would be really good feedback for Pryor. This particular juror did not feel, based on what this juror is saying, he did not feel that Pryor was acting professionally, almost like he, so Pryor rubbed a lot of us the long way, and the tone that he took, I think another juror, if it wasn't this juror, it was another one. Another juror talked about how Pryor would, um just his tone and how it came across as angry. Oh, I think it might be him. He's going to talk about how Pryor would almost like yell into the mic, and ooh, and so it didn't come off well. He didn't come across likable. And I've talked about likability with defense lawyers before. So to me, Karen Reed's lawyer, her defense lawyer, the guy, because I think she has multiple ones, her defense team to me is still coming off professional while they are pressing the state and the witnesses very, very strong. But they're not, to me, they're not doing it in a way that comes off condescending or rude or ooh, like Pryor did. Now, Pryor was one person against a whole state and a whole team. And that's what I think Chad might try to say, ineffective assistance of counsel. He might try to say that, especially since he wasn't allowed to add anybody else to his team. But that was Chad's decision. And the judge did get it on the record that it was Chad's decision to not present mitigating evidence, even the mitigating evidence that his lawyer had presented. The judge got that on the record. So Chad can't say, I wanted to present things, but my lawyer told me not to. Like the judge specifically asked him, you understand by not doing this? And Chad said yes. And the judge like asked him, okay, so this is, your lawyer isn't death penalty certified. You're faced with the death penalty. If you do this, this is the path that you have. And Chad said yes all along the way. And so but for the death penalty, they automatically get appeals, and it automatically has a process where it takes a long time before, like, some people waive their appeals. I don't think Chad will. I don't know that he will. But yeah.
I felt like there was anger and there was arrogance, and then there'd be
He said arrogance. 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 And I don't disagree. Like, Pryor was also coming off kind of superior to me, like, he knew better, and it was so, so, so difficult. I like Peter's coverage. So the lawyer said that the decision on Chad's part will hurt him in the end because it closes the door to certain appeals. I think he should have presented something, but I don't think he wanted to say, "I have some mental defect." I don't think he wanted to say, and I don't think he had a history of any, like, trauma in his childhood. Hidden True Crime, Dr. John from Hidden True Crime has speculated that maybe Chad needed more attention, but nothing that would raise to the level um, of what we might all commonly consider abuse or neglect. There is no evidence of that we have seen, and I don't know that you can blame your girlfriend. Like, you can't, or your wife now, like Tammy. I don't think that's a good defense. And I don't think he would have admitted that he was just blinded by her beauty and, like, threw all of his morals out of the window and he got married too young. I don't know that he would have admitted all of that because it makes him look weak. It makes him look small, and I don't think he wanted to look that way. I agree, S.L. Conley, you don't get to blame the hot girl. The fact that they talked about Lori's exact weight, like, I think, like, they ugh, like, that stuff rubbed me the wrong way, especially as they degraded Tammy. Chad didn't come off as a loving husband to me, and his children did not come off like they were grieving their mother. Like, they actively seemed like they were defending their dad, which can be problematic when you're looking at the jury. So the rest of his interview is up, and I'm pretty sure Nate Eaton will probably be putting out the full interview a little bit later. So let me know if y'all have any last minute questions. Um, I have a non-court related stream planned for today. Stop sharing. So right after this, we are going to chat about worth, belonging, fitting in versus belonging. And there's been some stuff coming up on LawTube. I'm not going to speak about the specific situation because I did not know the individual before everything kind of happened. And but I do just want to talk about belonging and what happens when people start to get blinded by the fame, the limelight, by just what the algorithm wants. So I know that my court content, it tends to do a little bit better than my general mental health content. I will always do the general mental health content as well, because that's why I got into this. So there was a social worker out in Ohio, I want to say, that showed up and, like, was engaging in very inappropriate behaviors with a 13-year-old boy, and it's recorded. Like, they know that, like, she's going to be found guilty, and she engaged in some very problematic behaviors. Well, a lawyer went on and talked about that he thought she might be showing signs of borderline personality disorder. And, like, one act, cuz she did show up to the boy's house with a with a weapon, like, that's problematic. But that one thing doesn't necessarily mean, like, BPD is a very complex disorder, and nothing that was being said sounded like that to me. And so I just made a comment on the video, like, what's being described sounds more like an antisocial personality, somebody that doesn't think the rules apply to them, but it didn't really sound like a full BPD to me. Um, and there were individuals with that diagnosis that were very thankful for that clarification, because when things like that come up, people can think, like, oh, well, this person's a professional, so maybe. But to me, everything that was being said had nothing to do with BPD. And the lawyer was good. Like, he was a good lawyer, I think. And I think him bringing up mental health concerns in general, I think that would have been fine, but he specifically said BPD, which was like, ooh, I don't agree. I don't agree. I do think that Chad won't allow them to do a psychiatric evaluation. I don't think he wants to be labeled crazy or his beliefs to be labeled delusional, because there are commonly known like his beliefs are cultish. Like he's a cult leader. Like anytime you say like I am God and like I'm here to save the world, there's going to be this huge earthquake and I'm the one that's going to lead us all to salvation. And you start moving away from doctrine. You like that's all really really scary to me. And so you'll be redirected. If you don't want to head over to the next video on belonging and worthiness, please enjoy the rest of your day. Um, welcome. I don't think he's gonna fight it. And I think he believes in like being reincarnated. I think he believes weird stuff. I do think Lori might need to be on watch when he is unalived, or like when Lori finds out, like they might have to watch Lori's mental health. But she might think when he goes that he can go and like do the work again. I just their beliefs are weird. Their beliefs are very, very weird. For people that sit on a jury, that do jury duty, that are first responders, that are therapists, anybody that sits with the pain of others, that sees all of these types of things, I really recommend you have to take care of yourself. And I think the jury having his life in their hands and getting to give his victims, like if the state proved it, and the state proved it, the defense didn't really have a great defense. And so the fact that the jury was able to do something often helps mitigate symptoms of PTSD. Now, the jury, all of the jurors, they are offered free counseling based on sitting on the jury. And so I think some of the jurors, based on some reports of some news broadcasters, they have said some of the jurors are going to seek therapy. One specific juror said that JJ's autopsy, or like the photos of JJ, trouble them and bother them. There is a such thing as resilience that can come out of a difficult situation. One of my favorite quotes is by Viktor Frankl. And the gist of the quote is, when you have a why, when you have some meaning in the midst of pain, it can often give you purpose. You can survive almost anything if you have a why. And so meaning making can be really important. Frankel, he is a Holocaust survivor. He was also a psychiatrist, and in the different camps, he would be given these roles, and he saw horrific things, horrific trauma, horrific. Like he saw a lot and went through a lot, and the meaning that he had and the purpose that he developed, he then shared that message. So post traumatic growth is a huge thing, because a lot of times we talk about post traumatic stress. I try to make a point to also talk about post traumatic growth. After a bad thing, it's actually not a good thing to go up to people and be like, hey, here are all the symptoms of trauma that you might develop. What's actually more helpful is after a collective trauma to talk about, hey, after something like this, you might want to hug your family. You might want to reconnect with people that you haven't spoken to. You might need, your community. You might have a new sense of faith, or like you might, like question some things. Just talking with people about the good that can sometimes come out of these situations. Now, this is that person's journey. So, like, if people need to sit in the pain, that's what they do in therapy. But in talking about disseminating information out to a mass of people who are not currently showing symptoms, it's not a good idea to talk about all of the stuff that can go wrong. It's actually more helpful to talk about, okay, here's some things that might come out of this after any type of life-changing event. All right. So I will see y'all over at the next video. And I hope y'all enjoy the rest of your day.